before we make it, we have one ritual that we like to follow here at Chimes at Midnight. Alex, repeat after me. Forswear. Thanks for being here tonight. We're going to talk about a drink that's close to my heart, the Old Fashioned. It's a drink that's had a strange history and that has been revived thanks to the cocktail revolution that started in the early 20th century. When I grew up in New Orleans, my dad drank at least 2 Old Fashions every night, made by my mother, so that he could sit in his chair, drink one, fall asleep, and then he'd wake up and have the second one. When I moved to New England in 1995, because I had been used to drinking Old Fashions down there my whole life, I'd order an Old Fashioned and it would always come with soda water and a tiny bit of bitters, and it was a terrible drink. Happily, thanks to this cocktail revolution that we're enjoying right now, the Old Fashioned has been revived, but there's a danger in revival, and we'll come to that in a bit. So right now, let's make what I think is a pretty great Old Fashioned. In New England, we start with maple syrup as a sweetener. Maple syrup is, I see it being used in more cocktails than in the past, but it's maybe underused in cocktails. It's easy to mix with things, and it has a unique flavor, and it makes you big and strong. This boy grew up eating nothing but maple syrup. If you don't have maple syrup, do not use Log Cabin or Mrs. Butterworth's or any of those other syrups, because you'll just be spoiling perfectly good bourbon. The second thing that we need is a quarter of a wheel, what I call a quarter of a wheel of lemon. I think Alex has got one cut over there. You're going to throw it right in. We're going to need a cherry. If you don't have a Luxardo cherry or another really good brandy cherry, or just don't use a red dye cherry, because it'll spoil the drink. You don't want to do that. You don't have to use a cherry at all. It's optional. I happen to like them because that's what I grew up with. And with those, and bitters. Most people use Angostura bitters. You can use a combination of bitters. I like Peychaud's bitters because they're from my native city. Today we're going to use Creole Classic bitters, which are a modern bitter. You can see one of the things I like about these is that they come with a dropper, so that when you dispense it, you get a real dash of bitters. And I like a lot of bitters, as Al knows. One more. There we go. That's to make up for all the bitters that I didn't get when I was drinking those New England Old Fashions. So the next thing is he's going to pour just a bit of bourbon in there. So I've seen Old Fashions made with rye. I personally disapprove of that, but if you like rye, no problem. And I don't even use a very expensive bourbon. This Evan Williams is pretty good. It's bottled in bond, it's 100 proof, and it's not expensive. You could use other better bourbon, more expensive bourbons like Elijah Craig, Buffalo Trace. Give me another bourbon.
Woodford.
We love that one up here. That one is really good, and it's worth trying sometime. But this one does perfectly well. So once you've got your bourbon in your glass, then don't muddle this. Squeeze it gently and lovingly so that you release the flavors. And now that Alex has done exactly that, he's going to add what I think is a really important piece of this, the big rock. Now, if you don't have a big rock, use whatever ice you got in your house. But let me encourage you to watch our video on how to make your own big rocks that will be bigger and better than you can find in any commercial establishment. Once you've got the big rock in there, then you got to fill this glass to within 3/8 inch, and I'm watching carefully because he sometimes wants to short me. Oh, that's pretty. I think that I wish we had a ruler. It was to within 3/8 inch of the top. And now, let's give it a little stir. and maybe put a flag on it. You can garnish an old-fashioned in lots of ways. Most people use orange. I like just a flag with a strip of lemon and a cherry, and put it on top. It makes it look pretty. This is a drink that once it's in your hand should last longer than almost any other cocktail. And if it doesn't, then you won't last very much longer after it. It's a very powerful drink, as you can guess. So here's the danger about being a Phoenix cocktail. The Old Fashioned right now is in many bars, excuse me. Nicely done there now. Is in many bars said to be the most popular drink that they serve. In fact, a lot of bars that I go to have big rocks that they use exclusively for the Old Fashions that they make. One result of that, however, is that bars are becoming very particular about how you make your Old Fashioned. If you put too much fruit in it, that's not de rigueur, and so they think that you are behind the times. What you got to do with an Old Fashioned, and this is why you need a home bar, is make one that suits you. This one, partly owing to my history, partly owing to the way things combine on my tongue, is a really good Old Fashioned. I don't like too much sweet, which it gets from orange. I like the slight sourness of the lemon. And to my taste, this is as good an Old Fashioned as I can need. And there's enough of it that I don't need too many of them. So let's say together, as we try to do very often at the end of any of our episodes, and with an Old Fashioned raised high. Forswear thin potations! And this, ladies and gentlemen, is not thin.